I think I'm just engrossed in the clay really, and the endless possibilities of what you can make from slabs. First of all, I'll wedge the clay. In the butter dish, the top is rolled out thinner than the bottom, but they're both weighed out at 2 pounds 4 ounces. I have a pre-cut template for each shape. It's really important to bang out the clay to the right shape in order that when I roll it, there's enough for the pattern to be cut out accurately from. So once I've banged out the clay so that I know it will cover the template, I put it onto the slab roller, cover with canvas, and roll to the required thickness. The base is always much thicker than the top to stop warping, and the top, because I'm going to bend it round quite a steep curve, it has to be much thinner. Once I've rolled to the required thickness, I then put on the paper template and cut around, and then I put a sheet of newspaper on top and then flip over the slab, ready to put it on the shelf. The slabs then have to dry for a certain length of time. Different things need to dry a different amount. The base, for instance, can be fairly stiff in order to hold its shape, whereas the lid would need to be slightly softer in order to bend without cracking. One of the things with making from slabs is I don't want my work to ever feel hard or stiff. Sometimes slabs, people think of slabs as very stiff and flat. So I'm really trying to achieve a softness. For that, I will always try and thicken the rims up a little bit. So this technique, when I've cut round the template, is to pull the slab to the edge of the table so it's overhanging just slightly, and beat with a wooden batten to thicken up the edge. In order to get good joins and also slightly flatter joins, I always cut with a mitered angle. Once that's cut, I'll score and slip. I'm trying to push the join securely together. Obviously it needs to be really well fixed, but keeping the join fresh. And I also want the join to be visible. I want there to be a memory of the join. I'm trying to make that still a part of the process that's visible. I'll then use a small piece of fabric that I place on top and rub with my finger in order to smooth over any thumb marks and compress the join, but still keeping it fresh. So during the making process of the base, often it goes a bit wobbly, so that I just now bend up the sides, making sure there's a nice defined edge, and then running my thumb around just to make sure that the base is securely on the table. So when it comes to the lid, this will be softer than the base because it's got to do a much tighter bend. So again, the same thing applies, mitering the corners, scoring and slipping. As you can see, I'm making it upside down, bending up, joining those corners, pushing quite firmly from both sides, and then follow with the fabric again to smooth that join, but keeping that freshness and some evidence of how the pot was made. So once I've done the 4 corner joints, I will then turn it up the other way and push my hand up gently onto the top, giving a sort of cushiony kind of feel, giving a nice rise. Again, adding to that feeling of softness that I'm after. Often I keep the offcuts from when I'm cutting out the templates. I keep all the offcuts to the side. So that's rolled a little bit thinner by hand. And then I'll cut that freehand. So once I've cut the shape for the knob, I cut the edges with a mitre straight away when I cut it out. I then put that over the rolling pin just to get a nice curve started on the form, and then I pick it up and bend it round further with my hand, gently curve it, and then I'll cut a V-shaped, like a dart, like a sort of dressmaking dart, and then I lift the handle, score and slip, and bend it round. Then these need to be left to dry to stiffen up until they're ready to attach. When I come to attach the knob, I offer it up to the top of the butter dish, and then I will cut. Obviously I have to cut and adjust, keep checking until I've got a good fit. Once I've got the position right, I'll draw around with the knife so that I've got the position, and then score and slip on both sides, on the knob and on the top of the butter dish. And then I will push it give it a good push on. Because they're hollow, you get a bit of resistance, because once the air's trapped, you can give it quite a good push down. Then I will gently sponge around the edge, also use a little brush just to clean up the inside, and then again I'll use the small piece of cloth where it's attached to the top. Because it's hollow, if I didn't put a small hole in, it would potentially explode in the kiln, so I just put a tiny little hole on the side. So once I've attached the knob, the lid is ready to be glazed. Because in the salt firing, the salt won't get to the inside of the butter dish because the lid is on the base, I do add a Chino glaze, and that's all glazed raw, so I glaze it straight away after putting on the knob. So when the base and the lid are ready, I'll then paint them with a white slip. Sometimes I'll wipe my fingers through, back to the body. Once the base is dry enough and the slip is not tacky anymore, I then cut a small paper template to make a paper resist. I put that in a little pot of water and then make sure that's wet enough so that as you put it onto the base, it can slip a little bit so you can get it in the right position. In order to decorate, I use a simple printing method, like a sort of ceramic version of mono printing. So I just use paper hand towels and brush the black slip onto those, then put them on these absorbent boards. So when it is the right consistency, I'll cut with a pair of scissors to the right size and put the slip side down onto the base, and I use various things to draw onto the back. This is just the end of a paintbrush, and I'll just draw on the back using my knuckle as well sometimes, or pushing with my fingers to make the marks. Obviously you don't know exactly what's going to happen because you can't quite see what you're doing, and then I pull away the print and there's the picture revealed. I'll use a brush and brush some Chino on, again like the lid. The salt glaze doesn't get underneath, so I brush a bit of Chino on over the paper resist. Partly aesthetic, partly it helps the butter stick to the base as well. That will sit and dry, and then I'll pull off the paper resist later on. So once the white slip is dry on the lid, I use my paper towels that I've previously painted with black slip. I carefully stretch those across the side, and then I'll use whatever I'm drawing with to push firmly through from the back of the towel onto the pot. So I tend to concentrate the main decoration on the two longer sides, and then I might do some small accentuating little decorations on the ends. So once the monoprinting's done, I'm then just using a thin wash of glaze, Chino glaze, and a slightly more iron-rich glaze, which just really softens the lines of the printing in the firing. All my work is once fired in a wood kiln, fired to 1300, cone 12. It's a very slow process because obviously it's raw, so it's a very slow beginning to the firing. It takes about 20 hours in total, with a very slow preheat the day before. I just love the idea that people are going to use my pots. In a way, that's when they fully come to life, is when somebody's taking them home and uses them, and you just hope that you connect somehow. Some of your emotions or ideas, comforts will connect to other people.